Do you know what most people are missing in their balanced breakfast? If you guessed a first-person shooter, you may be working at General Mills, because apparently that's what they were thinking in 1996 when they released Chex Quest. What exactly is Chex Quest? Well, it's a reskinned version of Doom, with the violence toned down and the setting has been moved from a demon-infested hellscape to a distant planet called Bazoik, which is overrun by phlemoids, who are slimy green blob-like creatures. Instead of having violent shootouts, your goal is to try to transport these enemies back to their home dimension. Obviously much less intense than the traditional Doom formula. Why'd they do this? Well, they wanted to sell some cereal, of course. It's not as common to find cereal boxes with prizes in them nowadays, but back in the 90s, that was a huge selling point. It had been for decades. In fact, the practice of including prizes with breakfast cereal dates all the way back to 1909, where Kellogg's Corn Flakes offered a free picture book when you purchased 2 boxes. Originally, they weren't in the box, but they'd give it to you at checkout, and then slowly they transitioned this into mail-in offers. But it wasn't until the 1950s where advances in plastic injection molding allowed for cheap mass production, and then in-box prizes took off. This tradition continued for decades until the early 2000s when digital promotions started replacing physical prizes, which became lost to time. A small plastic toy is one thing, but Chex Quest was an actual game shipped inside a cereal box. While CD-ROMs were getting cheaper, they still hadn't reached their peak in popularity, and music CDs were still priced around $15 to $20. So the concept of getting a whole game for free was a pretty big deal. So how did they manage this without going broke? First, Chex Quest was essentially just a reskin of an already existing game. The development costs were very low. They managed to secure a cheap license for the base game and only spent about $500,000 on development. To further reduce cost, they partnered with AOL, who are masters of the cheap CD marketing strategy. If you didn't grow up in the 90s, you may not be familiar with AOL, but they were once the biggest internet service provider in the US. To get into as many homes as possible, they distributed free trial CDs everywhere, in retail stores, magazines, and yes, even in cereal boxes. At one point, it was estimated that half of all CDs produced globally had an AOL logo on them. This partnership allowed Chex to produce Chex Quest CDs cheaply and efficiently, while AOL got a new avenue for distributing their free trial software. It was a win-win. In total, Chex produced an astounding 5.7 million copies of Chex Quest, distributing them in boxes of rice, wheat, and corn Chex cereals. The promotion included a 30-second ad and a website dedicated for tips and tricks of the game. It ran for 6 weeks and was a massive success, revitalizing an old brand into something fresh and exciting. Although the press had a mostly negative impression of the game, the gaming community fell in love, and it led to 2 sequels and an HD remake of the game, which is currently available for free on Steam. For those that are wondering, yes, I've played it, and here's some quick footage.
When the eggs are exposed to nutritional substances, they hatch into what we call phlemoids.
2 days ago, we lost contact with the people on Bazoik, including 5 members of the Chex Mix Squadron. We can only assume the phlemoids have taken over. We need a volunteer to fly to the caverns of Bazoik and attempt to rescue the missing units there.
That's ridiculous. What soldier'd be fool enough to enter a cavern full of unstoppable phlemoids from another dimension?
I'm from Chex Mix Squadron, and I volunteer. And so it begins. Nailing it.
I'm definitely going to start using that General Mills reaction in some future videos. And for full disclosure, I never really played Doom, so I can't speak to how it is in comparison to the original, but I'm sure if I played Chex Quest as a kid in 1996, I would have had a blast. If you want to try the game for yourself, I'm going to put a link to it down in the comments, but let me know what you think, and as always, I'm Frank Chopatini with Servetty, and thanks for watching.